Shirley was born in San Francisco to her two loving parents. Shirley also has one younger sister named Joyce, who was born September 1st, 1939. Her father, Roland C. Smith, was French-Canadian and immigrated to America from Canada. Her mother, Lena Nevada Barnhart, was born here in the United States but is full German. Shirley's father was a very strict and educated man and he was known as the dominant figure in their household. Due to his higher degrees from UCLA, he valued education and really pushed his daughters to pursue that route as well. Shortly after Shirley was born, at the age of 5, her family picked up and moved to the San Fernando Valley. Shirley grew up and spent the majority of adolescence in this area of California. Growing up, Shirley was very involved in music. She was classically trained in a number of instruments, including piano and violin. Shirley's parents really wanted her to pursue music as she was very talented, and the discipline of classical music was highly respected at the time. Shirley was raised in a very conservative, traditional Baptist home. She went to church every Sunday and was an active member of the church's choir and overall congregation. Around the time that Shirley went off to college at St. Olaf Lutheran School in Minnesota to study early childhood development, she began to doubt her beliefs in the Baptist church. It was here that she started to attend a Lutheran church, which appealed to her because of its progressive nature and the approach it took on how to live your daily life. This particularly appealed to her because of the strict upbringing that she had experienced due to her family's adherence to the expectations of the Baptist church. Interestingly enough, Shirley's father was much more relaxed and less strict than his own father had raised him. For example, they were very fundamental and literal in their beliefs to the point where they could not speak on Sundays. Although her father tried to raise them in a less strict environment, he still put heavy restrictions on Shirley as a woman. For instance, it was deemed inappropriate for her to go out dancing or go to the movies with friends.
Additionally, her Baptist upbringing stressed the importance of rules that should not be broken, whereas the Lutheran faith approached daily life with a list of things to be actively doing, such as caring for the sick, staying true to one God, and spreading His word. This aspect really appealed to Shirley and played an integral role in her ultimate decision to convert to the Lutheran faith. Another major reason that Shirley converted to the Lutheran Church was because of her husband, Paul Egertson. Shirley was playing music for a Christian television show when Paul first saw her on TV. They then happened to cross paths at a Christian Bible camp in Big Bear, where they were both volunteering and playing music. Paul worked up the courage to ask her on a date, and they went to an Angels versus Dodgers game. Interestingly enough, they continued to go to baseball games as a couple and later on as a family. Paul and Shirley dated for a short period of time, and then they were engaged at the age of 21 and 20, respectively. They were married in the year 1956 at Concordia Lutheran Church in Los Angeles, and Paul's father, an ordained minister in the Lutheran Church, officiated the ceremony. Paul was born in North Dakota on February 17, 1935, but moved to Los Angeles when he was a young boy. Paul received a bachelor's degree from Pepperdine in 1955. Paul came from a long line of pastors and bishops, and sure enough, he received a Master's of Divinity from Luther Seminary in St. Paul, Minnesota in 1960, thus starting his career as a pastor. He accepted his first call in Las Vegas at a Lutheran church where Paul and Shirley lived until 1979. While Paul was receiving his degrees, they started their family. A year after their wedding, Shirley was pregnant with their first child. In total, they had 6 children: Greg in 1957, Scott born in 1958, Stephen and Glenn born in 1960, John born in 1964, and Jordan born in 1970. When the kids were growing up, Shirley kept herself busy raising the boys and taking care of them. Due to the hours that Paul worked as a pastor, Shirley raised the boys and was the primary disciplinary parent.
As Lutheran parents, Paul and Shirley tried to instill in their kids normal Christian values and set limits. However, because their family was so involved in church, she wanted their kids to have more freedom in their home life, since having a pastor as a father required a lot of time for religious activities. When it came to involvement in church, Shirley always found herself involved in music. Shirley became the director of every church choir she was a part of, including adult choir and children's choir. Shirley considers herself a very introverted person and believed that music was a way for her to hide, since having a pastor as a husband gave her more attention than she had ever hoped for. However, Shirley was able to become very close with a woman at church named Joanne, but their friendship had to be kept under the radar because pastors' wives weren't supposed to give people at church special attention, since in a way Shirley was seen as a co-pastor. She has always valued their friendship and values it even more today since they have both lost their husbands. According to the socio-emotional selectivity theory, older adults become more selective about their social networks and spend more time with familiar individuals with whom they have rewarding relationships. Having a pastor as a husband meant moving around to wherever Paul needed. But wherever they moved, Shirley was able to continue to take classes. Eventually, when they moved to Thousand Oaks in 1979, where she still lives today, she was able to earn her degree and credential in early childhood education from California Lutheran University in 1984. While in Thousand Oaks, Paul taught religion at CLU, and Shirley became a teacher at the House on the Hill, which was the early childhood preschool at the time. Paul taught religion at CLU up until the day he died in January of 2011. Although Shirley was at first emotionally numb about the death of her husband, she can now openly speak about him without breaking down. Like we talked about in class, Shirley has experienced prolonged grief, which is enduring despair and unresolved grief after an extended period of time. Even after 4 years, Shirley still experiences grief due to the sudden death of her husband, which can oftentimes create more intense and prolonged effects.
Today, Shirley and her family are all very involved in the Cal Lutheran community, and she even has grandchildren that continue on their legacy here at CLU. Shirley now has 15 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. As a parent, Shirley's proudest moment was when her eldest son Greg came out, but still decided to go to seminary to try and become a pastor. For herself, her proudest moment was having children. We asked Shirley about becoming empty nesters, and she said that her and her husband never felt like empty nesters. Her children were constantly around her and continue to come over regularly. Having a large family has brought Shirley much joy, and she loves constantly spending time doing fun, family-oriented activities. While raising her kids and even continuing on today, she and her family have always been big on camping. Every year they would take an annual trip to Zion National Park. This has been a fun family tradition for many years and a place where they decided to spread Paul's ashes when they went during their most recent trip. Along with camping and spending time with her large family, Shirley loves to travel. Shirley has been to many places including Italy, Greece, Puerto Rico, Germany, Mexico, and most recently in January of this year, she had the opportunity to go to India, where she was able to do humanitarian work. Shirley believes each place has something different to offer, and she has been able to learn something new from each place she has been to. She hopes to continue to travel in the future and has plans to return to Germany next year with her son, John. As we talked about through the duration of class, there are many recognized markers into adulthood. The most traditional are having a full-time job, economic independence, and marriage. Although Shirley didn't meet a majority of the traditional markers in the order they are often recognized, she did get married and lived a very fulfilling life, despite her non-traditional path into adulthood. Shirley had a very well-rounded life and continues to do the things she loves with her family and friends.